Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive. Today we're taking a closer look at something called Supermoiré engineering. It sounds pretty futuristic, but it's actually happening right now, changing how we design materials right down at the atomic level. We've got some fantastic sources to draw on cutting-edge papers, really insightful video transcripts, and our goal today, well, it's to sort of distill all that down for you, give you a good handle on how these tiny, tiny twists in materials can lead to really huge breakthroughs. Okay, let's dive in. So let's start at the beginning. These moiré patterns. When we're talking about these super thin materials, what's actually going on there? Is it just like a visual thing?
Well, it's much more than visual.
Yeah.
And what's truly fascinating, I think, is how these really subtle adjustments can have such profound effect.
Right.
See, a few years back, physicists found that if you take just two layers of an electronic material, something like graphene, which is only one atom thick ray, and you stack them but twist one layer just slightly relative to the other, you get this interference pattern. That's the moiré pattern.
Okay, like when you see two window screens slightly offset, that kind of ripple effect.
Exactly. That's a good analogy for the visual part.
Yeah.
But electronically, it's much deeper. This pattern creates a kind of artificial superlattice. It's a periodic structure larger than the original atomic lattice, and that fundamentally reorganizes the energy landscape for the electrons moving through it. Which leads to completely new quantum properties emerging. Things like correlated insulating states, even superconductivity. So yeah, this simple trick, this twist, lets us basically create new artificial materials with really exciting tunable properties.
Right, so you're not just stacking crystals, you're actually creating a whole new electronic environment through the twist itself. That's quite a leap.
Precisely. It gives us a whole new toolbox for engineering how electrons behave, ways we just couldn't imagine before.
Okay, so that's two layers. But the sources, they really get interesting when talking about a third layer. What happens then? How does that build on the two-layer system?
Right, yeah. The third layer is where things get even more intricate. So building on that two-layer foundation, you add a third layer of graphene, and again, you twist each layer at slightly different angles relative to the others. This creates, well, even more complex interference patterns. These are what we call supermoiré patterns. Sometimes you'll hear the term moiré of moiré.
Moiré of moiré, okay.
And these supermoiré patterns, they induce even more profound, more complex changes in electron behavior. Researchers have started observing a whole zoo of new states of matter in these trilayer systems. Things like fractional quantum Hall states, different kinds of strongly correlated insulating phases, basically situations where electrons get trapped or they start moving in really unusual collective ways. It dramatically alters the whole system's electronic character.
It's kind of amazing then that for a while these complex patterns were just seen as, well, flaws, right? Imperfections.
Yeah. That's absolutely spot on, yeah. For a time, these really long wavelength supermoiré patterns and the trilayer materials, some researchers just consider them, well, messy imperfections. Not really important consider the simpler, more obvious moiré structures from the two-layer interaction. Andrew Pierce, who's done key work here, he even mentioned that initially he thought they'd just be a nuisance, something that complicated the picture unnecessarily. But then some really groundbreaking work, especially coming out of Harvard Seas, just completely flipped that view.
Yeah.
And this shift really introduces this concept of supermoiré engineering.
Engineering.
Right. Exactly. The idea is that this extra layer of complexity, this pattern on a pattern, isn't a bug, it's a feature. We can potentially design and control it to deliberately engineer materials with very specific desired electronic functions. It's like finding a hidden control knob in the material structure.
Wow. Okay, so what was noise is now the signal you want to tune. That's quite the turnaround. But you mentioned these patterns can vary a lot across a sample. That sounds like a nightmare for experiments. How did scientists actually get past that measurement challenge to understand them properly?
That's a critical question, yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're right, that variability was a major hurdle. Understanding the local properties tied to these supermoirés was tough. So to tackle this, applied physicists at Harvard, at the School of Engineering and Applied Sciences SEAS, they developed a really specialized microscope. It's called a single electron transistor microscope. It was developed in Amir Yacobi's lab. And the key thing is its resolution. It can examine materials with a spatial resolution down to about 100 nanometers.
Okay.
Which is crucial because that's roughly the length scale of the supermoiré patterns themselves. So it lets them directly see the electronic landscape within these complex patterns.
Directly map it out.
Exactly. And it's incredibly sensitive, too. It can detect tiny changes in things like electron density or the quantum potential that arise
Yeah.
because of these patterns. It gives you insights you just couldn't get otherwise.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty rare piece of kit.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Instruments like this exist in maybe only 4 or 5 labs around the world. I know there's one at Rice University as well. But having this tool allowed them to precisely measure both the simpler moiré and the more complex supermoiré patterns in 2- and 3-layer graphene side by side, almost pixel by pixel, and then correlate those patterns directly with the local electronic properties they measured. That was the breakthrough.
So bring it all together. What's the big picture here? Why should we be excited about stacking and twisting graphene layers just so? What does it mean for us?
Well, I think the implications are potentially huge. If we look at the bigger picture, the fact that these supermoiré patterns are relatively large scale compared to atomic lattices and seem quite controllable, that offers immense potential. For one, this research really deepens our fundamental understanding of quantum phenomena, especially things like electron correlation and superconductivity, that lossless flow of
Yeah,
electricity.
the holy grail in some ways.
In many ways, yes. And understanding these systems better could give us clues to achieving, say, higher temperature superconductivity, but maybe more immediately. It opens up completely new avenues for designing what you might call designer materials, materials tailored for specific jobs. Think about ultra-efficient flexible electronics, maybe new types of sensors, components for quantum computing where you need precise control over electrons. We're basically learning to write the rules for how electrons behave in these 2D materials. So we're talking next-generation materials, materials with multiple properties you can tune almost independently. That's the promise here.
This has been a really fascinating deep dive into supermoiré engineering. It's incredible to think how just stacking and twisting these atom-thin sheets, how that creates these patterns that just fundamentally rewrite the rules for a material, unlocking new physics, new states of matter, and opening doors to designing completely exotic new materials. And that journey, from seeing these supermoiré patterns as just noise, as imperfections, to recognizing them as powerful engineering tools, that really underscores how science constantly evolves, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. It's a perfect example, really, showing that sometimes the details you overlook, the things you dismiss as unimportant, they can hold the deepest secrets.
Indeed. And maybe that leaves us with a final thought for you to ponder. What other things out there, what other apparent imperfections or complexities in the world around us might actually be hidden blueprints? Blueprints for incredible new possibilities just waiting for us to build the right tools, or perhaps just shift our perspective to finally decode them. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We really hope this exploration has given you some valuable insights into this truly cutting-edge field. Until next time, keep exploring.